Calling to order the Needham Subcommittee to study the Minuteman School meeting for March 27th. And I want to start with saying hello to everybody, and let's just go around the room and introduce ourselves. I want to thank all our Minuteman affiliated people for coming tonight. I'm Mary Ann Cooley. I'm on the select board.
Barry Kaufman, Finance Committee.
Andrea Longo Carter, School Committee. Kathy Dowd, Select Board.
Miles Tucker with the Office of the Town Manager.
Heidi Driscoll, Superintendent of Minuteman.
Hi, Nikki Andrade, Minuteman's Business Manager.
Jeff Stuhlin, Needham's representative to the school committee and current chair of the school committee.
Were you the chair last year? No, it's
Yes.
just,
No,
oh, you were, so I am remembering that correct. I'm like,
Yes.
was it just in the fall? All right, how long has this been this time around?
This is
Year
two or
year
two.
two?
I think it's two.
Yes,
Okay.
two.
Two. All right, so I think everybody knows, we have been doing this for a long time. It was something that started with Dan Matthews. When it started, the relationship between the town and the school was in probably a challenging place. But I think that's true for the school with every community at that particular point in time. And so we put in place a practice of meeting twice a year, sort of in the fall, to take stock of where we really landed for the year and understanding our enrollments and what was happening with the school. And then in the spring, again, taking a look at upcoming enrollments and at the assessment to be sure that we have all the proper things lined up in the budget. And through that process, we've built a new school, things have changed. We've revitalized the interest from the Needham community in attending. It's been our goal to ensure that students who will be well served by Minuteman will get to Minuteman and will know about Minuteman. And so we continue these discussions to try to be sure that we're doing the best thing for our students and serving you well, and that you are serving our students well. So that's sort of the point of all this. So I think with that, the first item that we have on our agenda would be to approve the minutes from the last meeting.
Madam Chair, I've noticed the author, me, has made two typos in the copy of the minutes that I distributed to you all. The hard copy minutes have the amended language, which is specifically to insert the names of Mr. Taylor and Mr. Steen, who joined us last time. Those were placeholders in the draft minutes I sent along. I've also added the Zoom link and YouTube link for the meeting. So
We'll take that as a technical correction. Okay, any other comments? Otherwise, all in favor?
Aye.
And we will put them on file. And now I'm ready to turn it over to whoever would like to speak first. Heidi.
I'm happy
Are
to go through the items that we had on the agenda that were requested first. Once our PowerPoint shared.
I was gonna say, Miles, are you able to share it? Audience will see it later.
There it is. It's hard when that bar up there is in the way.
I know.
That's happened to me before too.
Perfect. Okay, you can hop to the next slide and pass the agenda. What we did was we have some information that you requested. The first item is about student enrollment. So you'll see the trends going back to 2016. The blue line is our total enrollment. Currently, we're at 669 students in FY24. Our member towns is the red line, and our non-member towns, 2024. Our non-member towns is the green line. So if you notice the 37 at the bottom of our non-member towns, that was kept consistent this year because we had 19 seniors graduate and we accepted 19 out of district seniors, which balanced the out of district tuition. So we had been on a steady increase. It looks like we're at a place where we're maintaining, and our EMAC, our enrollment membership committee is reviewing what access looks like and what we can do further.
Do you have a target enrollment for next year? Is the 669 about where you would really like to be, or is your?
So
target
we look at the
higher?
freshman class.
Mhm.
Last year we accepted all sophomores who wanted to transfer, which was only 7. Very few kids want to transfer to vocational programming after that freshman year.
Yeah.
So we are looking at actually, I have it on the next slide,
Okay.
now that I think about it. Well, one of our slides. So this just shows the shift in enrollment by towns. This comes up with how we got to our 669 students. And as you can see in Needham, the class of 2028 is your largest class. We are keenly aware of our out-of-district enrollment because that affects our tuition, which impacts our budget. You can flip to the next slide.
And I just wanna go back for a second
Yeah.
and make a point. So when you talk about out of district tuition is decreasing, it's decreasing because the number of students who are out of district
Exactly,
is lower,
exactly.
right? And they used to pay a higher fee, so to some extent, there was some subsidization there, right? And what's occurring now is that the folks who are in district are paying full freight for what
Well,
the costs are.
Sort of, our in-district students, that's a part of your assessment. The out-of-district students do pay a substantial tuition with a special education fee, correct me if I'm wrong, with a special education fee and a capital fee. And I think we are the only school district in the state who is allowed to charge a capital fee for all of our students who are coming in from out of district. We have to get that reapproved by the Commissioner of Education every year, which we did get approved this year, and we'll keep doing that.
So apples to apples, what's the tuition difference for an out-of-district kid versus in district?
Well, it depends on the town. So the state has a standard rate that we have to use,
Okay.
and the makeup is based on what the community can afford. That calculation that is with home value,
Yeah.
median income, so on and so forth. So it varies depending on
So,
the town.
so within district it varies as well,
Exactly.
but is it materially, if you took the average of in district versus out of district, is it a meaningful difference?
Per pupil, I don't, so I have an issue with the per pupil
Yeah.
cost because it's not you could be a student who ends up in a 45-day placement. We support you for special education needs. Your education may cost our district $75,000.
Yeah.
Someone else may cost substantially less
Got it.
because we don't have individual costs. So it's an interesting number, but everyone always asks us about per
Yeah.
pupil.
Yeah.
And it's even for a comprehensive school district, it's a mysterious number that doesn't truly give the picture of what it costs to educate students. So,
I guess my point is, if we go to 100% in district, will that cause, everything else being equal, cause tuition to rise?
it doesn't cause tuition to rise. If we had 100% in district, we would have no tuition, which helps us give back to our communities.
So the number of out-of-district students is much lower.
Right,
Mhm.
So they probably cost us very little because the number is very small compared to the total population of the schools. We don't really have to have a lot of extra resources,
Correct.
which used to be different. Also, the difference in.
why would, extra resources, why would you?
If you
Well,
had
if you have too
30
many more
students.
kids, you need another teacher,
Right.
more teachers, but the number is small enough so that there is not a lot of additional cost associated with having. You have a certain number, then you have to add more personnel to.
Well, if the total's the same, you wouldn't, right? I'm
So
not talking
we-
about
we
increasing the
Well,
total.
if the total number of kids, right?
Right,
And
fixed
yes.
number total versus, so it's all in district versus having any out of district.
There were a few years in which we lost so many out-of-district students who were paying tuition that assessments went up very sharply.
Okay,
Okay, we're kind of beyond that. Assessments could go up a little bit more,
well, I kind of, okay.
yeah, but they won't go up as sharply as they did during those 2 years in which. it
I
was-
think that was the real question we were trying to understand.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So there is some level.
I'll add in a little bit too.
Sure.
If you, almost on page,
Should we hold
Second
this
to third.
question till
yeah,
later?
you'll just see the numbers,
Okay,
which we
great.
can, yeah, so it's about 800,000 in total for tuition. And about 250,000 in our non-resident capital fee. Part of the reason Minuteman was advocating, to the state and got approved, that capital fee was to make out-of-district tuition more in line with what, the per pupil is. So
Right,
if you
because the
add up,
assessments included a capital.
exactly,
Yeah.
so if
And
you
that's
add up.
where they
Right,
did
yes,
that, so.
If you add up the tuition that's set by the state, in addition to the capital fee, in addition to if that student is getting special education services, it's more comparable than any other district because we have that allowable capital fee. But Heidi mentioned in a meeting 2 days ago, that member town still has to transport those
Yeah.
students back and forth, so they,
Right.
they incur a significant cost as well.
Okay.
And I can certainly give you more, if you want more exact numbers, I can go into more detail, but that, just to give you a little bit of, how much it affects the budget is on that page.
And I'd like to reemphasize Nikki's point. So when we were asked about this the other day, transportation, gigantic cost. Out of district students, we do not pay for transportation for them.
Okay.
So now they're a part of our per pupil,
Yeah,
but
But you don't.
we don't pay for
That's
transportation. So all
Yeah.
these little
Yeah.
nuances, are important to look at, especially when we're talking to people about per pupil. It looks very different.
Okay, great,
I-
thank you.
I was just curious about the numbers of students in the different member towns and is there, have you made a change in terms of the number of spots that you're allocating to some of the towns, or is it just more a demand issue? So, because I was surprised that, sort of Arlington went down a decent amount, whereas, in Lexington sort of had the opposite trend.
Yes.
And they're ones that, are obviously much closer, it's easier to get there.
In 2 slides, we have our slot allocations.
Mhm.
The formula has not changed. And we've accepted all member students. So we have not had an issue with slot allocations. It's just the applications.
Okay.
Those
will get-
demands are.
Yeah. Yes.
For one reason or another, it's gotten more popular in Needham and less popular in.
They built a new high school.
They
Right.
did.
That's,
Oh, that's
They
right.
did.
You typically see when new high schools are
That's
are
right.
built,
Yeah.
a little bit slower of enrollment from those for the first
that
few
was
years that the new schools there.
Oh,
Not as big as the ones that are coming.
You know, I
Yes,
know,
yes.
I've seen some estimates. A couple of times.
Would you mind going to the next slide, please? Thank you. So this is a comparison of our in-district enrollment by town, just visually. And Needham, you are correct, has been steadily going up. All the way to the left is the class of 2025, then the class of 2026, 27, and 28.
And when are applications due for?
They are already due. We
Okay.
have already sent out our acceptances. Can you turn to the next slide? That is what we have, slot allocation and acceptances. So you can see here, that these, our acceptances were sent. Well, let me go to the left. We have our applicants. Those were our total, applicants.
Mhm.
We have a slot allocation of 175. We wanted to make sure that we get 175 students. We accepted 230, and as of right now, 185 have accepted, 43 have declined. We're going to do another round of acceptances that will include the rest of our in-district applicants. I want to say we have 4 late applicants right now who are not included in this. Please let anyone know who is interested. Late applicants are always accepted. And if we are not full, we accept member town students before we accept out of district students. A process that we're going through right now is the out of district or the other districts have to confirm that they do not have a chapter 74 program that whatever the student, so if their district has plumbing, they cannot come to Minuteman for plumbing. That superintendent needs to approve those. So those are out to all of our different districts right now. We have 63 out-of-district applications, which is substantially more than we have had in years. So it does look like we'll be able to accept all member students, plus hopefully sustain a minimum of 19 out-of-district students to keep that funding equivalent. Questions about?
Explain the slot allocation, sort of how is that
Yes,
calculated?
that's based off on the 4-year rolling average, the same thing that we use for lots of our calculations. So it's where you have been for the same 4 years, so that no town has an unexpected gigantic jump. So if
There is a fixed number, there's a minimal fixed number, and on top of that, the 4-year rolling average, so everybody's guaranteed a couple slots at least.
I got it. Got it.
Sorry.
Yeah.
You allocated 175 slots, but you accepted 185, so are you 10 kids over enrolled?
no, what happens is we typically will lose at least 20 to 30 students, so we can't take that risk.
Oh, so this is, you've accepted them, not they've
They have
committed.
said
They
yes,
have
but they're gonna
committed.
change their mind.
Got
Yes, we have 185 who have
Get a
committed.
Private school.
See the line that says acceptances sent, those are acceptances by Minuteman of students.
Right,
So
So-
for Needham, 19 students were accepted, and
It's-
of those 19,
the
16
yield.
have said yes to the offer to enroll.
Right.
but
At
you,
this point,
at this point.
At
and
this
you're-
point,
and you're
that's why we
saying-
check
and
in
you're
again in the
saying
fall.
another of the 185, you think 20 to 30-ish, even though they've said, yes, I'm coming.
Change their mind.
will change their-
On average, we lose about 60.
Really?
Yes, which is why we accepted 230.
Wow.
Because,
Sure.
it feels good to be accepted, and people do things for all different reasons. But to make that commitment is a very big deal. And we wanted to make sure that we know as soon as possible where we are, so
Yeah.
we can make plans for scheduling and make sure we're using our building to capacity.
I'm just thinking of the college. Yeah,
Yield.
yield, but
Big
even,
yield, yeah.
but these, you look at the 60 to 40 declines, I mean, these are, so the kids have already had the option to say thank you, but no thanks. And-
Yes,
And the 185 had said thank you, and you assume, I guess you would assume if they, I guess not, I guess you shouldn't assume that.
we cannot do that. We would have, it is a very, freshman year's tough anyway, right? To make a commitment, you're changing grades,
Yeah,
you're changing
yeah,
schools
yeah.
wherever you are, and this is a totally different type of experience. So we do find, we might lose some students. A couple, once they find out, oh my goodness, this feels different, being
Yeah.
100% in a vocational program for a full week at a time. Couple in September, maybe a couple in January after the programs,
Okay.
right? And at the end of the year with moving and things like that, like a typical high school. However, we are not going to leave any seat open. Kids who want to be educated will be
great.
here.
So for us, though, as I look at that 16 number, that 16 number is lower than the students who have been enrolled
Correct.
in the last couple of years, so
Well,
it's,
yeah. No, just the last
it's a
year.
little bit counter to where
Yeah.
we've trended, but.
Yeah, we have 20 right now, so it's about a 4-student difference.
17.
Now, I don't know
Yeah.
what towns our late applicants are from.
Okay.
I don't have that information offhand. But again, we do accept late applicants. There's no drop dead late for in-district applicants. That's not a thing.
The way you think about the 4-year rolling average and how the budget plays out, you are losing only 10 seniors, so your freshman class will be bigger than what's graduating.
Oh,
So
good
Yeah.
point.
overall, your
Also
enrollment in your 4-year rolling average still will, continue to
Increase.
increase.
Makes sense. Okay. We spoke about middle school collaboration, last time we were here, and the picture's a little bit small, but if you look, all the way to the right, that's Jan, when he went to, the middle school, to do our presentations. Let's see. So he right now is finishing up his senior year. He's doing great. He is out on co-op still, and he is pursuing a job in plumbing when he graduates. He's going directly into the field. We are having, and I'm not worried about the attendance here. We're having a guidance counselor breakfast for all of the guidance counselors from all of the middle schools from our sending districts on April 16th. I actually extended that invitation to all of our superintendents. If they want to join us with any principals, they've been absolutely wonderful. So I can give the superintendents and principals a tour, and the guidance counselors will have some professional development and training with our admissions counselor and our guidance counselors. So we're really excited about that, but feel free to talk it up. Erin, who was here with me last time, she brought our environmental instructor in January, after the traditional, presentations at the middle school, so they could be accessible to all students during lunches, which is something new that they did this year. So the environmental instructor brought some hands-on things, and they spoke with kids, gave information, and will continue to do that practice. We also talked about co-op, and this is where we are currently in co-op. We have one senior from Needham, who's in the pipeline for long-term employment at J.W. Langton Plumbing and Heating. One junior who's working at the Goddard School in Wellesley with infants and toddlers. And we actually have a senior who's a non-resident who's working at the DPW in Needham. And if you look on the right, that's one of our juniors from early education. She just participated with some other students from early ed in a competition called Educators Rising. And she earned a place at the national conference in Florida in June. So that's very exciting. Hope we're recruiting teachers everywhere. Okay. You can flip to the next page, and here are some student highlights. I think, I'm not sure if we shared this, it was so long ago in the fall, I'm not sure if we shared this from the last graduating class. 6 of the 8 Needham graduates went on to 2- and 4-year colleges, many continuing study in their CTE fields. 2 other graduates have other plans, other is travel, family, work. Some of the colleges are Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University, Mass Bay, UMass Amherst, UMass Dartmouth. We currently have 58 students representing 15 of Minuteman's program majors. So we have 19, and Needham students are in 15 of them. And we want to give a shout out to Sam Monahan, who's a 3-season athlete in soccer, basketball, and softball, and junior Alex Franconi, I think is how you Francione, who is a starting hockey goalie. So that's very exciting, and he's just a junior. And now we're getting to the budget. So this is just a reminder with a couple pictures that when you see our budget, it does reflect our values. We are committed to giving a state-of-the-art vocational technical education for our students to prepare them for careers in college. And I'm going to hand it over to Nikki, who's going to give you all the numbers you'll love. And I do want to apologize visibly. Today, my son is receiving his last college. Yes, you know what day it is. It's yes. So I am waiting for a call or a text. And I apologize if you see me checking. That's what's happening.
Feel your pain.
Go ahead, Nikki.
All right. So digging into a little bit of the budget and the numbers, we have Needham's preliminary assessment, which includes the building project debt, just above 2.2 million. Overall, our budget is just shy of 32.5 million, which is a 2.99% increase over last year. And continuing on just a little bit further, breaking down, our operating budget is about 5.5%, and we have some reasons why that's so high in our upcoming slides and budget drivers and priorities. We have a big decrease in our operating capital line, and that is because we had an old energy savings lease on our old building that was finally fully paid off last year. that was allocated to all of the 16 member towns at the time. So you are seeing a big decrease, in that line because of that reason. And lastly, our building project debt has remained, somewhat consistent now, just less than a 1% change and a 1% decrease. Our building project was finally closed out in August of 24. And we'll just be having the debt service payments going forward. We paid off our short-term ban once we got the MSBA reimbursed back. Overall budget for our member assessments is just shy of 26.5 million, which is a 2.79% increase. But as you know, the budget is driven strongly by the number of students that are enrolled. So while this is the average increase, we will discuss further in the preliminary assessments the breakout by towns and how that plays a role.
And the difference between this and the 32 goes to the non-member towns, is that right?
There is more details in one of the later slides, but it's, any of our non-assessment revenue is revenue that we receive from the state, chapter 78, regional transportation reimbursement, our tuition and our out-of-district, capital fees that we get charged. So I can go into a little bit more detail when we get there. So this is probably the most important slide, our budget drivers and our budget priority, which is driving our FY26 budget this year, is our staffing. We have a 3% collective bargaining agreement, plus the steps and levels for any teachers that continue to progress throughout their career or maintain more education.
What's your contract term? When are you renegotiating again?
So this is the last, FY26 is the last year, and we'll be negotiating in the fall for the upcoming
In 3 years?
3 year, yeah. So this last one was 24 to 26.
It's already on the back of our mouth.
Yeah, I mean,
Yep.
I think negotiating next year will be very different than negotiating this year.
We
We are negotiating right now. So
I agree with that. Okay, next on the list is supplies and materials. Our finance committee, once we brought, our first round, recommended that we take a look at supplies and materials, in particular with the change, in guards. And, thoughts about, would there be potential tariffs? In particular with our vocational and our career technical education, there's been significant inflation for wood, metal, all that hands-on material that the students need to learn and practice with. So we took a look at the supplies and materials budget to ensure that they can really maintain, the work that they're doing.
And we decided we can keep the cost down by having them smelt their own metal. Very, very good at this stuff. So.
make sure they build their car parts.
We have some insurances that are driving our budget, in particular our building insurance and our general liability insurance. We've had some claims that have increased those. However, we were able to level fund our health insurance. Last year we had built in an increase, but our trust fund that we're part of, Mass Bay Healthcare Trust Fund, it's 4 regional schools, actually voted a 0% increase last year because they had a really good reserve, and they had low claims. So we kind of had a built-in increase this year, which allowed us to level fund that. So that helped our budget this year. We have transportation. We had to put out a new bid, and we got 2 bids back, and we are going with North Suburban Transportation. So it will be a change in our transportation company that came in just over 5% increase. But one of the big, probably the biggest driver in why our operating budget is high at that 5.5% is our increase to OPEB, or other post-employment benefits. So there's an additional slide, but we had a study committee put together in 2021 that analyzed our fund and our liability, and they determined that this was the appropriate year to be fiscally responsible to our member towns, as our ESCO lease was falling off the books, to do a one-time bump to increase that OPEB contribution this year, and then we'll continue on with a 5% each year. And there'll be additional details in upcoming slides. So we also have some capital needs and capital stabilization fund that we consider. And we will continue to offset our athletic field debt service with our facilities revolving account. So we rent out our field. And we put money aside to pay for the debt service on that field in particular, and we've also set up a reserve. That we put money towards each year, so in the future, if we need new turf, we'll have kind of a built-in fund, so we don't have to come back to the towns and ask for. A big contribution.
And how's the field rental working out with, Leslie?
Leslie, we have the bolts, we actually just had a capital planning meeting today. We are booked, it's wonderful.
That's news to me. I'm glad to hear it.
Oh, yes.
Great.
So we can move forward with the next slide. We do have plans to contribute to our capital stabilization fund. It's $950,000 this year, which is $100,000 increase from last year. We had a long-term plan put together by an outside company, Offsite Insight, or On-Site Insight, apologies. And it will be the finance committee and the capital planning committee working together to kind of assess that and come up with a funding plan for how that looks, and that'll be brought forward to you guys in the future as well.
It's the first time we've done that, the first time we've gone to an outside company to look at a long-term capital plan. They came back with some numbers that are rather startling, but it is what it is. I'm sure you understand that, and we'll have to figure out how we're gonna fund that plan over time. Looking
Absolutely.
forward to those discussions.
So there are some capital needs around the building, approximately $153,000 of stuff that, we'd like to make happen in FY 26. And, we'll continue to look at that list and, address things as they come up. A little bit more on OPEB, as I had mentioned before, our trust balance is 1.7 million. And our unfunded liability is about 22 million. So we do have quite a bit of ways to make up. In relation to, kind of catching up to the liability. So this year is 1 year I'm really looking forward to is making that additional 300,000 contribution and keeping that 5% increase each year to really try to close the gap on that.
That $300 jump is a permanent one-time jump that we're taking advantage of the end of that public project. So that's a bigger than average increase in our contribution to OPEB, a one-time large jump. Taking advantage of the fact that we don't have to pay the interest on the ESCO project anymore.
We can move forward to the preliminary assessments. So our budget is strongly driven by the 4-year rolling average and the number of students that attend for each school. So Needham in particular, the assessment is going up 22%. Just as I mentioned, just above 2.2 million. But if you look at your 4-year rolling average, and as we've talked about, as you've seen the increases in enrollment, the 4-year rolling average increase in students is 21%. So it does strongly correlate your assessment and your 4-year rolling average, in particular for Needham.
Can you explain, sorry, why Arlington and Acton, their assessments are going down when their students are going up?
Yeah, so our 4-year rolling average is strongly correlated in how it's calculated for our operating budget. Our capital budget has a different calculation, and
Okay.
it's a little bit more complex, so
It's just the mix.
yeah, so
Okay.
the capital budget is 50%, the 4-year rolling average. It's also broken out, each town pays 1%, so that makes up 9%. And the other 41% is based on DESI's combined effort yield, which is property values, household incomes.
It's a lot.
So it's not perfect, but we do kind of like to see, sometimes it's a big shock, especially percentage wise, but if you kind of show, the increase in the students correlates with the increase in the assessment, it kind of helps people understand a little bit better that may not be like loving to dig into the numbers.
Although, another example, Bolton, the percent change in the students was 21, similar to us. But then the percent change in the assessment was 13.
Yeah, so that would,
They're less able to pay.
yeah, it would
right?
have
So
to-
They have lower assessment.
Yeah, it's,
Yeah.
yeah, the community's ability to pay for it, the property values, the household incomes, and then that's multiplied by the percentage of students attending Minuteman divided by their total students that in their whole town that go to any school. So it is a little bit more of a complex calculation
Mhm.
for the capital side of things. You know, if you look at Dover in particular, they're 1% of the capital. You know, while they are, their 4-year rolling average is about 4 students, significantly increases their assessment. Whereas for Arlington, that 1% isn't as big of a deal. So there are different things that change the percentages, and percentages are skewed when they're smaller numbers too, so. And then just to give you a little more information on the historical assessment trends, you know, we've included back as far as FY 21. But you know, you can see that your enrollment has almost doubled in 5 years. You went from a 4-year rolling average of 21 to 43. So, you know, that's really a testament. I'm not sure when this committee got together, but clearly, there's some really great things going on. So a testament to everybody in the school. As to, you know, kind of just seeing the increase in the interest to Minuteman. I think we double, yeah.
Yeah.
I think there was one before that, Miles, apologies. So this just breaks out our operating and capital budget with numbers year to year, because sometimes percentages skew things a little bit. So again, if you're interested in the numbers, but we have the 2.99% increase in the operating and capital budget here. And then this is our non-assessment revenue that you were asking about. Our chapter 78 and our chapter 71 was taken from the governor's budget that was released in January. And we'll continue to track that as it goes along, but you know, somewhat consistent numbers there. Our prior year tuition and our prior year capital fee also remained consistent because, as Heidi mentioned, we had those 19 seniors graduate, we had the 19 freshmen come in, so that's kind of level funded. If for some reason we didn't accept any more out of district students, as we've seen in prior years, that number would decline, which would, you know, increase the assessments to our member towns. We also have that facility rental revolving money that offsets the athletic debt in particular, and we continue to offset with our excess and deficiency fund, 650,000, which on average makes the member town assessments increase about 2.79%. And then just breaking out our assessment components here, minimum required contribution, our transportation budget increase, again, you know, due strongly to the bid, but also we have seen a significant increase in homeless, foster care, special education transportation, which is quite expensive. So we've tried to kind of budget accordingly based on the students that we have. But obviously those things always, ebb and flow. So
Stunningly expensive. Stunningly.
Yeah.
I look at the warrants and I see the line items for
Yeah.
the, how much the transportation is for how few students it is.
No, I mean, we do it too for.
yeah,
other-
it's, yeah.
Right.
districts.
The homeless and foster care transportation is really,
It really is
A lot,
astounding.
yeah.
it's.
I have debated, I haven't told Heidi,
No, go-
maybe switching careers.
on a transportation,
Yes.
yeah.
But you can see the ESCO lease fell off, other changes that we've talked about, again, the 2.79.
Excuse me, can you just explain one more time? The excess and deficiency fund, what is that?
So that's like free cash for a town, revenue minus expenses,
Okay.
that fund balance, yeah. So that kind of wraps up our presentation. We're happy to answer any questions that we haven't addressed as we've gone along.
Any questions? We asked a lot, but.
I'm curious about, you have, you developed sort of a long-term capital plan.
Yeah.
What sorts of things are in it, or what's?
Well,
What do you-
I can talk about that.
I'm just curious.
No problem. No problem. So, it is not, it's a list of capital recommendations. So if you look at this 20-year span, it says, okay, you have a brand new boiler from 2019. based on the type of boiler, it should last until this year.
Okay,
So it gives us a whole list of recommendations. So in reality, we have seen some things already not match that. So it isn't, at first, we were calling it a capital plan, but it isn't, it is not. It is guidance to make sure that we are protecting ourselves, so we don't have to address those big picture costs when they come up. A challenge that we have is that we opened the building during the pandemic and didn't use it to capacity for a year and a half. It's not what you're supposed to do with new buildings, so we have some challenges with that. But it is when I say it is a detailed I have never seen such a wonderfully comprehensive examination of our entire facility and campus, our ancillary buildings. It's very helpful. So it gives us it gives us recommendations for if we did absolutely everything according to this, what we would need. But we do our capital recommendations this year are based on not only that plan, but also what we see in reality currently right now.
that's great that you have that to use to guide you for.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, Dover Sherburne used the same company to give that guidance. And
Yeah, that's great.
yeah,
It is scary looking at it though.
it is.
So, but are you able to use it as a tool to help you plot your funding
Yes.
and replacement funding so that the building will actually be maintained
Exactly.
and won't fall into a state of disrepair and make the repairs even more expensive? That's how you're using it?
Exactly correct.
That is the goal, and the finance subcommittee and our capital planning subcommittee needs to get together and say, how are we gonna fund that? What do we really have to fund? As opposed to what the report says, and how are we?
And
gonna-
put away in your stabilization fund if
Exactly.
it's not needed at this instant.
Exactly.
So you'll see years, I think it was like 15 or so, it'll be a big spike because a lot of things, might be prone to be breaking down. So at that time, we wouldn't necessarily have to go back to our member towns. We could say, okay, let's use this amount from
Right.
capital stabilization and only ask the towns for this. So that is a strategic thing that we're even thinking about, funding capital stabilization this year. It's not necessarily for now, it would be at the school committee's discretion, but that's kind of the long term.
We do have to think how we're going to fund that though, because there are some fairly large, which makes sense, you use up the building. Either you repair it and keep it up, or you let it deteriorate and you don't get the full life out of it. You gotta
Right.
choose your poison. And we would rather keep the building in tip-top shape for its life.
But what's great right now is our operations director, who's our facilities manager. What she is able to do is have that as a list. And for example, at the beginning of this year, we had an unanticipated elevator repair. So that was supposed to be in year 9. Nope, it was actually this year. So that comes off of year 9. We can plan in a very different type of way. It's great.
Anything else?
Any thoughts to, given now that you're at the point where it's, the school's full, demand's rising, it's trying to figure out ways to expand.
I think right now, we're examining, we are looking into making a strategic plan to make sure that we're using our building to capacity. I've been here for not quite a year, but we have to make sure that we are, and I'm committed to doing that with the school committee.
So there was a concern, right, that the building would be really overrun with students. And it's looking right now like it's sort of settling about where it is, maybe. Which I think is a level that the building is comfortable at. I don't know if you think about what would be your ideal target for that building. And I know we certainly had a design point. And we talked about what would happen in other cases, but
So the building was designed, if I'm not mistaken, I don't have it in front of me, at about 680 students at 80% capacity.
right,
So right now, I mean, that's what they planned when they built it. Since then, We have an additional north building for our advanced manufacturing. We have vet tech that is outside of the building. So our goal is to make sure that we fill every single vocational seat. We don't have an exact number other than what was recommended before. But I hope that in the future, we're serving all of our member students that apply plus without expanding additional staff. Yeah.
Heidi has suggested some very interesting ideas on, this is actually an ongoing discussion since the new building opened. What is the right number of students for this building? There've been a lot of different opinions on it.
Yeah.
Now, Heidi has expressed some very interesting ideas on that, which we are looking at carefully. To say, what is the real capacity of the building? And I think that that is still an open question. We're hoping that it'll be at a somewhat higher level to comfortably fill the building, not have it overrun, because we're not gonna have so many students that's gonna deteriorate the quality of their education. But there are some ideas on the table that look promising that would allow us to expand the use of the building without large expense. And
I would think, given the diversity of the offerings, right, and their independent, there's that kind of distinct, needs for, for space as well as, you may balancing that is a challenge, right? You may be underutilized in some departments that you're not gonna can't really take space away from for other departments necessarily.
You're right. It's not like a traditional
Right,
classroom where if
right.
we have more students who pick current affairs, we can have you teach that in a math classroom.
Right.
It doesn't work like that for the vocational side. But for us, we're balancing both. So
Yeah.
our students, about half of them are on one format, about half of them are on the other. So it's as if we have two high schools running at the same time, if you can imagine that, which is particularly challenging when it comes to scheduling, but I mean, we love a good challenge and that's where we are.
Paid the big bucks.
If there aren't any other questions, usually the last thing we do is find a date for the fall.
I actually do have one other topic I'd like to bring up, and you know what it's going to be.
I do.
I'll start and you can add to it as you see fit.
Okay.
There's something that you should know about. The Board of Education has been looking into the application process of career tech schools. There is a group of individuals
I'm sorry, the state level you're talking about?
at the state level, that's right. There's a number of individuals who believe that the application process for career tech school is not equitable.
Mhm.
And they would like to move to a system that is closer to what they would call a blind lottery. Blind lottery meaning you have all the applicants and a computer will just determine which of those applicants are the ones that would attend your school. Now, we are not fond of that approach for a number of reasons. Just a couple of them. We believe that the students who really want to go to a CTE school should have priority in the application process. Not everybody who applies to the school is there to go to a CTE school. They're there possibly because they want to, they think that the CTE school is a better place to be than or there could be some services that we offer that they are thinking are better at our school than others. So they're not necessarily interested in a CTE education and what blind lottery would randomize that.
But it doesn't, to date, it doesn't appear you've got an issue where kids who are applying.
In the future, we may.
Actually, we would right now. So right now we have 63 out of district students. If we decided to take those students to maintain our tuition funding, right now we take the top
Right.
19 who score. If we had a lottery, we would have 63, 150, and there would be
But
randomly
we've got
selected.
this sort of membership format.
So we would actually be lucky enough to have 9 lotteries based on our slot allocations according to the new proposed regulations. So for example, if your slot allocation is 5 students, we would choose 5 lottery balls. And then do that with each town. Then there'd be an additional set of lottery balls to fill the remaining seats. Then there would be another lottery for out of district. None would be based on interest. And as you can tell from right now, we're accepting 230 students for ending up with 185 spots. We need kids to make the commitment. We need the families to make the commitment. I am worried about what we would be coming to our towns with when it comes to assessments and what this looks like in the future. If we are having a blind lottery. I'm also concerned with losing students. If there are no standards to come in, and it is, hey, give it a shot, throw your name in there. And that student does come and decides September 10th, whoa, I'm out of here. This is not what I want. We can't fill those seats in September. We'll lose the fund. I think the intent is, in theory, in philosophy is good. We do want equitable access. However, you don't fix what isn't broken. And right now, I think there is one school district that does have a disproportionate amount of students in one particular population. I think it's special education that doesn't match their sending districts. Most of them are urban. And the state is working with that one school district. Based on that, the regulations are proposed to affect every single school district. Also in the regulations, if you'd like to join me, I'm having a Zoom meeting, which he can share the information with you, on April Fool's Day at 7 p.m. You're welcome to join us. I'll be providing information, details about the regulations, like they're calling it a weighted lottery. But for us, it would essentially be a blind lottery. One of the elements, for example, is, of course, everyone who applies gets one lottery ball. If you have fewer than 27 unexcused absences, you get a bonus lottery ball.
That's unexcused absences,
Fewer than how many?
27
It's a
27.
huge number.
So,
Is
so
that for everybody in the
crowd,
district or per kid?
per kid.
per kid,
So if you have, remember, we don't even know how many
Oh.
excused absences they have. But anybody with less than 27 unexcused absences gets an advantage, gets a little extra bonus.
and this is just one little nugget. It is
That's
not the best.
nonsensical.
So, for example, I used to work at Southeastern Regional. We had an urban district as the major feeder and lots of towns connected. Their average unexcused absence for their district, for those towns, is substantially higher, closer to 27 than we would be because of our sending districts. So something that school committees do, because they are policymakers, is they may consider in admissions requirements, well, let's look at the amount of unexcused absences of our region and make a recommendation for what our targets would be. But what the state is doing is saying one size fits all for every single district. School committee members in many different vocational districts feel that they're school committee takes policy, this regulation feels more like a policy.
What are the chances that this is happening?
High on the Board of Education, it's very high.
When will the decision be made?
So right now, it's out for public comment. The regulations are out for public comment. There's a form to fill out for public comment. There's also a bill in legislation right now, recommending that this be paused, so there can be a working group filled with educators who can weigh in on what some reasonable elements might be to support the excellent vocational programming that we're supporting across the state. Jeff can share those details with all of you.
Heidi, it feels to me like it would be helpful if there was sort of a set of talking points or something that could go out to your town so that we could craft a letter
Yes,
and provide it to the Board of Ed and maybe to the committee at the State House.
that would be wonderful. So in my summary that Jeff can share with all of you, we have sent that to our parents, to our school committee members, to our advisory board members.
Has
But
it
it's
gone to town managers and,
not at this time. It's really important that we speak about it first so people can hear in real time. Because sometimes, if people hear about this or if you're reading about it online, it's a very heated issue. Because the issue is, philosophy,
right,
Are the other vocational schools, is there far more demand than, is that what's driving this?
There are wait lists almost everywhere, and we technically right now do have a wait
But
list.
but we're more, sounds like we're much more balanced than these other schools.
No, right now, we actually, Minuteman serves a substantially higher special education, low income, and students of color population than our sending
Well,
district.
no, what I meant is in terms
The
of.
size of the wait list.
Well, yeah, demand versus
I
supply.
think that there's a school that has like 300 slots for 1,000 applicants.
That's
Yeah.
pretty common, that's pretty
So
common.
that's the imbalance. we
Well,
want more
and that's what's
balance.
driving this.
But I want to emphasize Jeff's point. So, sometimes in a failing urban high school,
Right.
students are not seeking a vocational education.
Right.
They're running away
Away
from
from- yeah,
something
yeah,
instead of running
No, I
to
appreciate
something.
that.
So we really need to,
Yeah.
go to the source of our issues and address those as a state. So right now, I don't know if you're aware of this, but the Commissioner of Education or the interim Commissioner of Education is now going to be a superintendent in Pennsylvania, if I'm not mistaken. He's done this month. And the Board of Education voted to make the Secretary of Education, both the Secretary of Education and the Commissioner of Education.
Acting commissioner.
Yes, until July 1. So that's another piece that's happening. The vote on these regulations are scheduled for May. And that's where we are right now. So I'm happy to make sure that that gets to you. We've been doing this town by town as we have the conversation.
And I think I'm gonna bring up one more point on this. The data and statistics they use to start this argument of the schools being so inequitable. A lot of that was, I think, bogus is a not too strong a word. Would you agree?
Not too strong at all. No.
It was like, if you were to see this, some of the data that they sent and the claims they made from it, and you said if you were a neutral party, you'd say these people cannot be trusted to show in an honest manner. It was that far off from reality. So, and yet they're still pursuing it despite that. So there's some politics, I believe, going on in the background, not quite sure where it's being driven from. It could be the governor, it could be somebody else. Someone.
Which legislators are putting forth the bill to stop it, do you know?
I think Adam Scanlon was the first to file it. And I want to say there's about 15 signed on right now.
This feels like something that the member district school committees would want to, put together a joint statement, I wonder, I don't know how
Some school committees may like this to happen because there are students who they would prefer perhaps to be at the career tech school. And this gives them basically an opportunity to influence that. So not all local school committees will probably be against this.
Thank goodness you are all very kind.
If I
We
said
work
that as
together.
politely as I could.
Yes.
very, very much.
and I'm also though wondering if there are some other people at the State House that we should be talking to.
I would say talk to anyone who will listen and everyone. We're asking people whether they're pro-lottery or whether they're anti-lottery to read the regulations and submit individual letters of public comment. In I think it was 21 or 2011, when there was another rendition of these measures trying to get at the admissions criteria. For example, all of the vocational superintendents submitted one letter and everyone signed on. And then when the board discussed public comment, that was counted as one comment. So it's really important for individuals to make their voices known.
Have you met with, she's not currently the head of like the House Education Committee, but have you met with Alice Beisch?
I have not, no. I've been working with MAVA, Massachusetts Vocational Administrators Association, with their executive director and their leadership together. And we are, I think I was at the State House as recently as last Wednesday, I think it was.
Seems like a lot
It
longer.
seems like a lot. It was, so,
And who did you meet with then?
many people, many people. And that was the day that bill was filed, if I'm not mistaken. So it's all very new because it's a wildly short timeline and
So they have to get their bills in by a certain date and, yeah.
mhm.
All advice and assistance is, well,
But we'll
Well, it
make sure
certainly
you
seems like
have
we need
the bill
the
number.
information
yes,
and we're
absolutely.
going to organize some letters to be written, so.
Thank you.
It does seem commonsensical that you want people that want what you are offering to be there, you know, rather than fleeing some situation.
Absolutely, absolutely. So a lot of places have made, so I've been to every Board of Education meeting, I think since August or September with the group to make sure we have a seat at the table, we're hearing what's happening firsthand. To date, there have not been comments from any comprehensive school districts or school committees who explain how this affects them. It has been vocational superintendent saying this is how it will affect our districts without the districts being there. If any of you felt compelled to make public comment at the April meeting, which is before the vote, that would be greatly appreciated.
Well, I mean, I think the other thing that would affect us as a community is the students who really want to go, who have a dream of going, may be passed over. You know, for someone who is,
that is
not
the
as
worst, that is
enthusiastic.
the worst possible outcome, and that is where we are going.
Yeah.
The kids who really want to go will not be given preference over the kids who do not want to go.
But strangely, the people who want the blind lottery say the blind lottery will help students who want to go get in. But it's as if
that's a
you,
misunderstanding of your criteria, I guess, or a lack of trust in your process.
yes,
And again, at least you guys haven't taken that situation with 1,000 applicants for 300 slots,
mhm,
where you've. Which is where I imagine where all the angst comes from.
It's true, but regardless how they change it, most of the kids who want to get that education still won't get it. The only way they're gonna really improve it is to increase the number of seats that are available in that district. So
Right.
what to me, it's like rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic.
Right.
and as someone,
Focus on that district as opposed to having everybody.
Right.
exactly.
Which is where the issue is.
And you know, I came from a comprehensive school district immediately prior to here. If my students in my K-12 district were clamoring to get a vocational education, I would establish chapter 74 programs that you can do that anywhere.
Right.
That's what you do. So
Mhm.
we have to have more seats.
Do you have superintendents in any of your districts? I don't want to speak for Dan, but that would be a good spokesperson?
I do,
Okay.
I do. And I'm hoping that at least one of them will come with me, in the near future.
And are the superintendents educated on this question?
So-
The vocational superintendents.
The comprehensive.
No, so something that I've done this year is I've actually hosted lots of tours and I'm trying to bring in, especially, middle school principals, assistant superintendents, people who are working with staff to help kids find where they should be.
Yeah.
This year, I had an assistant superintendent from one of our, districts. We're doing a whole tour. It was absolutely wonderful. They were amazed with the programs, impressed with the kids. We were standing in the carpentry shop. And this person asked me, so how long is this period again? And I almost passed out in the sawdust because I said, no, this is not a period. And the concept of it is just foreign to people who are not in it. It is very difficult to explain, and I do feel like that's a part of our challenges with parents, helping them understand what we do. But we do have, so I'm in a new superintendent coaching program, NISIP, that we all do. I'm the only vocational superintendent in the entire, is that the whole state? I guess it would be the state, who was new this year. There's not a vocational superintendent for a coach, so I have a separate one for Mava. And my group didn't understand that we work with all of these separate towns and finance committee meetings and town managers and town administrators. And a superintendent of a large urban district said, oh, I didn't know that. That I didn't know. They assumed we were a part of a program for it. It's just, if you haven't been connected and have not been a part of it, it is wildly different. So I think that that's a part of the struggle. There are only 29 vocational technical schools in the state, and it's a small voice. And
The
that is
Board of
where we are.
Education do not understand these schools at all. They do not understand, they didn't even know that regional agreements existed,
Oh.
and that they have to take care of them.
Right.
So they were about to pass a blind lottery in which you would not even be able to have a slot allocation. It would just be a blind random whoever gets in altogether, and we had to educate them that we have these
And try to
agreements.
support them and.
So I had no idea about that. They
You
never-
couldn't plan at all, and how would you do your assessments, and the whole thing would fall apart.
Exactly.
They did not know that, and although they know it now, the amount that most of them really understand about CT schools is very minimal. And they're the ones who are gonna be voting moving forward, and many of them have already expressed their opinions on it. Is that a fair statement?
Yes.
Yes. That does
Okay,
not go.
well, so we need whatever the information is that you have. And we're happy to work with that. It would seem to me that should also be sent to our town manager.
Absolutely.
And we do have town meeting coming up.
We do have town meeting coming up.
So who should I communicate the materials for Minuteman this year? Who should I send out those to?
Miles, should they go to you? And then, well, I believe, was there a meeting held with the moderator to talk about how materials would be distributed? Did that happen?
That has not happened yet.
Okay,
That is being scheduled.
that is being scheduled. You can get them to Miles. Let me just say that we are negotiating with the moderator. There's some, we're trying to find a method that everybody appreciates for distributing materials, and I don't know what that is as I sit here today.
A change for this year.
It will be a change,
I see.
maybe,
Okay.
maybe.
I
Maybe
think,
not.
I think
Maybe
either
not.
way, you can send me the
We'll put it
documents
on
and
the
those
website.
will make their way to where they need to get to.
The
Very good,
moderator
thank
has
you.
some other ideas.
Got it.
So, we're working on it. Okay,
You say
but yes, it is
something about
coming.
date.
So the next question always is upcoming date for the fall.
We have to like ignore the summer and talk about the fall already.
No.
That's how this works.
I left my phone at home, so I am
unable to,
How could you do
I'm not 16.
that?
And I think at the fall meeting, there was like a discussion of if the budget was gonna be part of the conversation, and the way it was scheduled, it was a bit too early. We hadn't really had our original
So when do you,
document, so I think if that's something that you're interested in, that may change,
So when would
The
that
scope.
mean you would recommend? And we also definitely want enrollment to feel settled and all of that, so.
do you remember, when was October 20th?
I'm gonna look right now.
So we typically present our departmental requests to our finance committee the first meeting in November, but that's something that's not necessarily vetted by the superintendent yet. And then there's more information in December. We kind of really start to narrow it down. So just preface that knowing that, you know, depending on the date, there may or may not be budget information for FY 27 available at that meeting.
So I think typically we've met more in October,
Mhm.
right? Later,
Towards the
later
end of
October.
Usually it's around Halloween.
Yeah. So I was looking like at October 29th. For years, we did a Monday.
Typically Monday.
We've been told that the moderator likes October 20th for special town meeting. Have you heard that, Barry?
I have not heard anything about.
So we were
special.
told that, so I can tell you I have that held on my calendar.
Oh, good to know. I will put that on my calendar.
So October 27th, perhaps?
Is a Monday?
Mhm.
It's a Monday.
I can already tell you that I cannot make it because there's the general bylaw review committee, which the moderator is also on,
But what
Wait, I
time is
don't know.
that committee meeting?
6.
Will it go for a long time, or do you think it could maybe just by nature of this being there also?
Depends on the article that we're going through.
Or if you knew this was there, maybe you could like schedule something appropriate that night and we could still meet here at 7?
We already have all the articles scheduled on all the dates. I'm sorry. I mean, I can just, you know, whatever. You don't need me
The
necessarily,
October
so.
one has not been scheduled yet, but it's a placeholder for something that might get delayed.
Are you talking about the general bylaw?
Yes.
Oh, I thought I had it on October 27th.
I had you at September 22nd.
No, I know me, but I mean, there is a meeting on October 27th.
That's correct. We
Yeah,
just haven't programmed out which article will be discussed,
Oh, we
which
haven't,
also might be
okay.
a full work group though.
yeah. I have a feeling we're gonna slip though. Don't you think? We're gonna have
If we do slip one,
Two Article 2
October would
meetings.
become yours.
Okay, October 29th.
We should go, we will be meeting.
I was gonna say, will you be meeting yet?
But
No.
if the town meeting, if the special town meeting is the 20th, we're done. We won't
Okay.
have to start
You're in
till,
hiatus.
until budgets are out. Mid till November, so that would work.
Does that possibly work for you all?
Works for me.
All right, so let's hold October 29th at 7 PM. With that, I think we're good, and I would welcome a motion to adjourn.
Moved. Second.
All in favor?
Hi.
We are adjourned. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you all.